طيب، بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. فإن شاء الله نستمر بقراءة الكتاب المسمى اقتضاء الصراط المستقيم. We'll continue with reading with the book entitled اقتضاء الصراط المستقيم لمخالفة أصحاب الجحيم. The straight path necessitates being different than the people of the hellfire. That was authored by Shaykh al-Islam Abu al-Abbas Taqiyuddin Ahmed ibn Abdul Halim ibn Abdul Salam al-Mashhur ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala rahmatan wasi'ah, who died in the year 728. The book known as The Straight Path Necessitates Being Different Than the People of the Hellfire by Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala. إن شاء الله من يقرأ؟ أنت الدور عليك إن شاء الله.
You want like this?
Yeah.
So you want me to
أي نعم، الدور عليك.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد. وقال شيخ الإسلام رحمه الله وأما متشابهات.
You got a ta there?
متشابهة.
Do you see a ta?
التاء مربوطة.
In the beginning, mutashabiha or mushabah?
مشابهة.
No, mushabahati or mushabahatu. No.
وأما مشابهة فارس ورومي فقد دخل في هذه الأمة من الآثار الرومية قولا وعملا، وآثار
الفارسية آسف it'd be الروم نعم والآثار الفارسية
قولا وعملا ما لا خفاء به على مؤمن عليم بدين الإسلام وبما حدث فيه، وليس الغرض هنا تفصيل الأمور التي وقعت في هذه الأمة مما
تضارع أو مما تضارع
مما تضارع طريق المغضوب عليهم والضالين، وإن كان بعض ذلك قد يقع مغفورا لصاحبه، أما لاجتهاد أخطأ فيه أو لحسنات محت السيئات أو غير ذلك.
نعم. طيب, I'll read the Shaykh Hafidhahullah Ta'ala, Rahimahullah Ta'ala. He said, وَأَمَّا مُشَابَهَةُ فارس يعني فارس والروم فقد دخل في هذه الأمة من الآثار الرومية قولا وعملا، والآثار الفارسية قولا وعملا ما لا خفاء به على مؤمن عليم بدين الإسلام وبما حدث فيه، وليس الغرض هنا تفصيل الأمور التي وقعت في الأمة مما تضارع طريق المغضوب عليهم أو الضالين. وليس الغرض هنا تفصيل الأمور التي وقعت في الأمة مما تضارع طريق المغضوب عليهم أو الضالين، وإن كان بعض ذلك قد يقع مغفورا لصاحبه إما لاجتهاد أخطأ فيه أو لحسنات محت السيئات أو غير ذلك. Now, so the author here, he says, he's talked about how, or some of those qualities where we resemble, where he talked about how the Prophet ﷺ guaranteed that we were going to resemble. And so it's something that's going to happen, la mahala. But the wisdom behind mentioning it is so that we could avoid it. The wisdom behind mentioning that we would resemble wasn't for us to just give up hope and say it's going to happen, therefore it's justified. It's okay. The Prophet said it was going to happen, it's going to happen. There's no excuse. I mean, there's an excuse. Don't blame me. The Prophet said it was going to happen. No, the reason why the Prophet mentioned it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is so that we could avoid it, so that we could know about it and take precautions. And so because of that, the author, he mentioned some of the qualities of the people before us that the Muslims have fallen into. And so he mentioned, we said that these qualities could be religious and non-religious, right? Don't think that tashabbuh is only in religious matters. Resembling the disbelievers even includes cultural, non-religious matters. Obviously, religious matters are worse, but cultural matters are just as bad. So he said that, or he mentioned from the qualities that we resembled the Jews in, that some of us have fallen into, that resemble Bani Israel, al-Yahud. And then he mentioned from the qualities that we resemble the Christians in. And he mentioned, sprinkled in that, some of the qualities that we resemble both of them. The Jews and the Christians both did it. The Maghdub and the Dhalin, they both did it. And then he now is mentioning some of the qualities that we resembled the Persians and the Romans. Persian and Roman are not religion. Judaism is a group of people, but it's a group of people that is synonymous with a religion. The Nasara is a group of people, but it's a group of people that's synonymous with their religion. Like the Romans, they're a group of people that is not necessarily synonymous with religion. Yes, they became Christian, but their culture is one that wasn't necessarily religious driven. Their culture wasn't religiously driven. The Persians, their culture wasn't necessarily religiously driven. They had a religion, the Majus, the Zoroastrians, the fire worshippers, but you found from amongst them Jews as well. They had a tolerance of religion. In spite of that, we were forbade from resembling them, even though it's not necessarily religious driven. And this is going to be very important when we start talking about the holidays, right? Which is the purpose of this book. The main agenda of this book was referring to celebrating the celebrations of the non-Muslims, right? Somebody comes to you and says, well, Mother's Day is not a religious holiday, so there's no harm in it. Thanksgiving is not a religious holiday, right? It has no origin in religion. It was just the day that we remember that we did business with the Indians and everything was okay. Somebody says Independence Day is not a religious holiday, right? They didn't celebrate Independence Day for kufr, for Jesus, for whatever. That was just a day, regardless of what country you're in. Every country has an Independence Day. It's not a religious celebration, so it's okay. We say no. It's still not okay because resembling includes the affairs that are religious just as it includes the affairs that are cultural, right? And this is across the board, right? When we start talking about cultural resemblances, this is the thing that is very hard for most Muslims of any culture to get away from. Because there's a balance between al-aslu fil adat is what? The foundation. And so before we go on, does everybody know the three major rules? The origin, as the principle that we deal with Aqidah with is what? Yes, but so the principle, the way we approach Aqidah is tawqif. We don't say yes, we don't say no without proof. That's the foundation. Somebody asks you a question about the unseen, about Aqidah, about Allah, about the angels, about the Nar, about the Jannah. The answer is what? I don't say yes. I don't say no without proof.
This is not the application of negate before.
No, Aqidah, I don't say anything without proof. Somebody says Allah has 7 fingers. What do I say? I don't know. I don't say yes. I don't say no without proof. I say, show me a proof, I take it. You don't bring me a proof, I don't say anything. Allah has fingers. What do I say? Yes. Allah has fingers because the Prophet ﷺ said, القلوب بين أصبعين من أصابع الرحمن يقلبها كيف يشاء. The hearts are in between 2 fingers of Ar-Rahman. He alternates them as he sees fit. So now you've brought me a proof, I establish fingers. طيب. If I say Allah has fingers like mine, what do I say? No. Listen to the question. Allah has fingers like mine. No. You see what I'm saying? Why do I say no? Allah says in the Quran, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. There is nothing like him. So he can't have fingers like mine. You see what I'm saying? If I say Allah's fingers between Allah's fingers are Allah will put the earth on one finger and the sky on Allah will put the skies on one finger and the earth on one finger. What do you say? No? You didn't learn the principle. Huh?
Oh, I don't know.
Here we go. I don't know, ya akhi. Show me a proof and then I'll take it. And so when we get to the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ explained, وَمَا قَدْرُ اللَّهَ حَقَّ قَدْرِ وَالْأَرْضُ جَمِيعًا قَبْضَتُهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَالسَّمَوَاتُ مَطْوِيَّاتٌ بِيَمِينِ. And the Prophet says that Allah will put the earth on one finger and the skies on one finger, right? So now that I got that proof, I can say yes or no. You see what I'm saying? But before that, before I knew that, I had to say what? I don't know. Yes. لا 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 لا. أولا ليس هذا. ليس بهذا. هذا أسبوعي. لله أصابع كيف يشاء. يعني يليق بجلاله. I don't know كيف. I don't know how they are, but the hadith is it's in Bukhari and other places. He says حدثنا آدم قال حدثنا شيبان عن منصور عن إبراهيم عن عبيدة عن عبد الله. That's a great chain, right? That's a great chain. Mansour ibn Mu'tamar, Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, Ubaidah is Ubaidah al-Salmani. No, that's Ubaidah. I want to say Ubaidah al-Salmani and Abdullah bin Mas'ud. He says that a monk, right? A monk came to the Prophet, or a rabbi. A monk from the monks or a rabbi from the rabbis came to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, "O Muhammad, we find in our أَنَّا نَجِدُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلَ السَّمَاوَاتِ عَلَى إِصْبِعٍ." We find with us in our book that Allah will place the skies on one isbi'. And this word isbi', usbu', usba', right? The word usba' in Arabic, you can say it any way you want. There's no wrong way to say it. Put whatever harakat you want on it. Hamza, Sad, Ba, Ain, there's no wrong way to say it. Asba', isba', usbi', asaba', right? There's no wrong way to say it. He says, wal aradhin ala isbi'. And he'll put the earth on one finger. And he'll put the trees on a finger. And he'll put the water and the plants on a finger. And he'll put the rest of creation on a finger. How many fingers is that? يجعل الأراضين على إصبع. I'm not showing fingers, I'm counting. يجعل الأراضين على إصبع. والسماوات على الإصبع. والأرض والماء والثرى على الإصبع. والشجرة على الإصبع. وسائر الخلائق على الإصبع. Right? That's 5 fingers. Allah will put all of this on each of, like this, he says, and then he will say, أنا الملك I am the king. فَضَحِكَ النَّبِي. So the Prophet ﷺ laughed. Right? His laugh here is a laugh of approval. The Prophet ﷺ, he laughed until his back teeth could be seen. حَتَّى بَذَتْ نَوَاجِذُ. And agreeing to what that monk said. And then the Messenger ﷺ, he recited the ayah, وَمَا قَدْرُ اللَّهَ حَقَّ قَدْرِ. And they don't value Allah the way he should be valued. وَالْأَرْضُ جَمِيعًا قَبَضَتُهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. And the entirety of the earth will be something that he grabs on the day of judgment. And the skies will be rolled up in his right hand. Subhanahu wa ta'ala amma yushrikun. فَالْأُصْبُعْ نُقِرُّ بِهَا. The point of it is, before I knew that, could I say yes? And I couldn't say no. And now that I know I have proof, I can say yes. So the foundation of Aqidah is, there's no yes, there's no no without evidence. That's the foundation in Aqidah. طيب, the foundation in worship is what? Haram. Al-aslu fil ibadah al-mana'. The foundation as it relates to worship is that it is haram to worship Allah until you get proof. Without proof, worshiping Allah is what? Haram. Right? Bab wujub al-ilm qabla al-qawli wal-amal. You have to have knowledge before statements and actions. You have to have proof, right? أَمْ لَهُمْ شُرَكَا شَرَعُوا لَهُمْ مِنَ الدِّينِ مَا لَمْ يَأْذَنْ بِهِ اللَّهُ. Or do they have partners that have legislated for them in the religion that which Allah has not given permission for? So when it comes to worship, you have to have proof before you can do it. So before I can put my hand like this, or like this, or like this, or raise my hands like this, or like this, or go down on my hands, or go down on my knees, I need what first? Proof. Without proof, worship is haram. So if somebody comes to me and says, when I make salat, I like to go like this in qiyam, I can tell them what? No, I don't have to say what's the proof. I can tell them what? That's haram, ya akhi. What you mean it's haram? Where's your proof that you can do it? I don't got no proof that I can do it. I just feel comfortable this way. The foundation in worship is what? Al-mana. You cannot do it until you have a proof. طيب. So we got aqidah, we got worship, and there's one more. We have culture. Adat, things that aren't worship. What's the foundation in things that are adat? Halal. Al-aslu fil adat al-ibaha. The foundation in things that aren't worship is that it's permissible. Akhi, why are you wearing that hat? Take that off. Astaghfirullah. Don't you see everybody else got on kufis? What do we say? Except him. Why they don't got on kufis? Astaghfirullah. What y'all doing? It's your hair exposed. Put on a kufi. We say the asl in adat is what? Halal. Al-ibaha. Akhi, I can wear this kufi. I can wear this hat. That's fine. I don't have to wear a tagiyah. That's just the way people dress. That's not worship. So I need a proof to tell you you can't. So we have that principle. And this is where it becomes really hard. Because most of us, right? Maybe not most of us. Some of us come from cultures where the culture isn't what? The culture isn't Islamic. So, your culture, Islamic or not Islamic? It's Islamic culture. So the foundation of whatever you do in your culture is what? Halal, the foundation. I might find some things that are haram, and then I say, akhi, here's a proof. Y'all can't do this. Akhi, but my parents did it, my grandparents did it. I know that's culture, but no, this particular one here is haram. But everything else, inshallah la bas. Your culture. Islamic or not Islamic? Okay. Your culture. Islamic or not Islamic? We know our culture is kufr. Your culture. Islamic or not Islamic? Yalla ikhtir. Are they Muslims or Kafirs? Your culture. Where are you from? Ethiopia? It is 50-50. It's a difficult one. Because Ethiopia is a big place. And there are a lot of different areas. What part of Ethiopia? Oroma. Khalas. It's Islamic, ain't it? Oromas are not Islam? Most of them aren't Muslims? Oh, I thought most of them were Muslims. Yeah. MashaAllah. So, we have this thing where we have culture that is okay. But then we also have this thing here that a lot of our cultures are what? The culture of disbelievers. And so to what extent is culture left okay? You understand what I'm saying? And this is where a lot of people have trouble leaving some of their culture. And they'll say that, well, no, it's okay in culture to do this. It's not religion, it's culture. But we have to look and see, even though culture, the foundation of it is permissible, whose culture is it? And if it is their culture, i.e. the culture of the kuffar, what should we do? We should be different. The kuffar have this name. I want a different name. The kuffar wear these clothes. I want different clothes. The kuffar drive these cars. I want different cars. And to what extent do we have to be different in culture? And so this concept is one that is very difficult on a lot of people because there's that competition between the foundation and culture is what? Permissible. While at the same point in time, resembling the kuffar, even in their culture, is what? Haram. So where do we draw the line? And that's what this point that he's making here. He says, as far as resembling the Persians and the Romans, and he's specifying them not because they're the only two that matter, but because they were the people during the time of the Prophet. Ya Rasulullah, Afarisu wa Rum, qala faman an-nasi illahu. They said, oh messenger, the Persians and the Romans. He said, who else is there? But included in that is who? The Chinese, the South Americans, the Latins, the Americans, the Africans, right? It's not just the Persians and the Romans as if no other group is included. It's talking about them because they were the dominant ones. They were the nationalities that people would try to be like during that time. Just like in our day and age, what is the nationality that people try to be like? Americans. Previously, maybe 100, 120 years ago, what was the nationality everybody tried to be like? British, but even I would say the French. There was a time where everybody was trying to be French. Our country, what was sophistication? What was education? What was intelligent? Everybody talked all the time, Paris, right? Everybody spoke as their second language, what? French. Our social system, our government is based off of whose? French, right? We take a lot of things from who had that revolution that everybody tried to copy? The French, right? And so the world power can change. There was a time when Britain was doing its thing, so we're not negating that, but these world powers can change, and so the Prophet is not mentioning them here as if they're the only ones that were being forbidden from resembling. It's just because they're the ones who were in power, and whoever is in power, the people try to be like them. When the Muslims were in power, for example, in Spain, what did the kuffar try to be? They tried to be like the Muslims. They grew beards. They wore their pants above their ankles, right? You go to Philadelphia, right? Alhamdulillah. Sometimes you find that the kuffar dress like the Muslims. They say Ak. What's going on, Aki? Yes. You be like, hey, you Muslim? No, I know a lot of Muslims. What's going on, Aki? You chilling? Right? Because that culture amongst the African Americans specifically there has taken dominance, right? So the author is mentioning Fadl.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disrupt.
You're good.
As a sidebar, the thobe.
No.
You know, Chinese was wearing the long dress.
Right.
First. And so
Wearing it first? So
to my understanding, yes.
wearing what first?
Yeah,
The long robe?
Like the thobe now.
The long robe?
The thobe today.
Okay.
Yeah. And that the Saudi or that peninsula or that country adapted the Chinese thobe dress.
Like that is so. There's two parts to this question, and they're both going to come up in this book. The first of them is ethbit. Confirm that they did it first, which is a big topic as it relates to resembling. Confirm that they did it first. Who were the first people to make glasses?
I don't know the history of
I don't know it, right? So can we say that the kuffar came up with glasses? Because we don't know who the first.
The Chinese was making it though.
I got you. So the first thing is you got to confirm first that they were the first ones to do it. You say the Chinese, but the Chinese have a lot of people. The Chinese are a lot of different people, right? You see what I'm saying? They're not one. They're not one person. They're a lot of different people. And did they do it first, or did they get it from somebody else before that? You see what I'm saying? Before you can say that we took it from them, it has to be affirmed that they did it first. That's the first thing. The second thing is the way that they do it, the way that we do it, which is a difference. You see what I'm saying? Bani Israel fasted. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum. Oh, you have iman, it's been ordained for you to fast just like it was ordained on those before you. But we've been commanded to do what? Be different than those before us. So we both fasted, but do we fast the same way? No, there's a difference. So even if you say that they wore a garment like this, do we wear ours the same? Are our garments and their garments the same outside of being long garments? You see what I'm saying? The third thing about it is the thing that is being shared. Is it a human trait that is common amongst all humans, or a specific trait? And what we mean by that is, why do we wear a thobe? What is the dress? Why is this a common dress amongst the Muslims? To cover our body. Is that something that's specific to a group of people or common amongst humanity? It's common to humanity. We cover our bodies. Our first parent did what? What did Adam do and Hawa do when they ate from the tree? They recognized their awrah and they did what? Covered. Humanity, since as long as we've been humans, have been doing what? Covering. This is our shared lifestyle. That doesn't mean some people don't walk around naked, or some people cover less or more, but who we are as humans, our mind state is to what? Cover. And the better of a human we are, the better we do what? Cover. And so just because this group covered good doesn't mean we're copying them if we cover good also. You see what I'm saying? Is that something that we're taking from them, or do we just both happen to be doing the best thing? You see what I'm saying? So like wearing the beard. Did other nationalities wear beards? Are we copying them because we wear a beard?
No.
Because wearing a beard is what? Wajib. Not even that it's wajib, it's a completion of a man. This is a quality that is shared amongst humanity. A complete man has a beard. Right? A man who doesn't have a beard is looked at as lesser than. Whether it be that he didn't grow it yet, they say you're still young. Why don't you got a beard? I'm 11. What am I going to do? You see what I'm saying? Or a man who shaves it, we say, why don't you have a beard? This is from, are we saying that we're copying when we have one? We say no, because this is a shared human trait. That's number 3. Number 4, which is the last one, which is the hardest one of these, responding to that statement that the Chinese wore the thobe first, right? We say, prove it. We say, did they wear it the same? We say, is it something that was taken from them, or is this a universal shared quality? And then the fourth one is, can culture change? Can culture change? For example, who invented denim? Denim, blue jeans. American cowboys. They were the first people that we know of to wear denim. It made sense in the West. It was a nice fabric. It allowed you to breathe. It was strong. It didn't wear out. And that was the fabric of the American West. Who wears denim nowadays? Everybody. You see what I'm saying? Everybody got a pair of blue jeans. Realistically speaking, everybody got a pair of jeans, right? I got a pair of blue jeans. And if I'm doing something that needs some blue jeans, I'm going to put some blue jeans on. And boots. Right? What about a cowboy hat? Right? Now you kind of cross.
Can you wear a cowboy hat?
Well, can you? I'm not saying, my goal in this book is not meant for us to start telling you halal haram. But the jeans, even though they invented them, there's a purpose in that. And they were invented with a purpose. And that purpose, we all need it sometimes. Sometimes I need a good pair of jeans to go ahead and do this work. Can I go crawl down into a hole and wrangle some cattle in the thobe? So then I might need a pair of jeans. Like, what about the hat? Is that more of specifically them, or has everybody adopted that? It's still them.
It needs to be part of that.
The whole, now the hat had a purpose.
Yeah, it had a purpose.
The cowboy hat has a 10-gallon, 15-gallon, it has a purpose. Blocking from the sun, being able to carry things inside of it when you need some water out the river, drink out your hat. The same way our Iqtidaa had a purpose. We take this and tie our camel. We use this to cover our head in the desert. Now it's fashion, but it came from a purpose. You see what I'm saying? But who wears these? Have you ever seen a group of people that ain't Muslim wear these? You might see an Arab Christian every once in a while, but that's because they're Arab. But these are Islamic. Who wears those? Muslims, right? You might see a non-Muslim African American with a chew stick in his mouth and a kufi on. But who's he being like? The Muslims. Who wears baseball caps?
American. Baseball cap was formulated for.
We know where it came from, just like we know where this came from, and we know where that came from. But who wears baseball caps nowadays? Well, let's take something different.
Okay.
T-shirts. Who wears T-shirts nowadays? Everybody. Right? Did the Sahabi have a wife beater? Right? We got to be politically correct. A shirt. Right? Did they have tank tops? Somebody had to invent the tank top. Right or wrong? We were talking about yesterday. How would a woman know she came on her period in the middle of Salah? How would she feel it? How would she feel wet? Because she don't have no drawers on. You understand? It's common for you to have drawers and underwear and tank tops and long johns and panty liners and all of these things. Did the Sahabiyat have those things?
No.
Who uses those things now?
Everybody.
We know that somebody invented the tank top. If we go back through history, we'll find the first guy to have a tank top was so-and-so and so-and-so. We know we took it from him. We know for sure that this tank top, the same one, he patented it, called it the A shirt, and we've all been wearing it since. But now, is it resembling him? Because everybody does it. You see what I'm saying? And that's a hard one. And they all interact. Prove that they did it first. He's going to talk about that concept. Right? A lot of times we say we got this from the kuffar. No, we didn't. They got it from us. We just forgot that we came up with it. A lot of times they got it from us. We just forgot that we came up with it. All of their math and science, who they get it from? From us. So all of the things that are the results of their math and their science, who they get it from? We just forgot that we came up with it.
We get our own history.
Yes. Prove that they started it. Number two, if it is the same, or it's taken from, if we are doing two things, prove that we're doing the same thing. Yes, they wore a long garment. Their garments don't look like my garment, right? The kimono does not look like a thobe. You will say, well, no, the kimono is long and the thobe is long and it's flowing. Yeah, but the kimono and the thobe are two different things. Just like the izar and the kilt are two different things. You see what I'm saying? The third thing is the thing that we're doing, if we say it is the same, is it the same because we took it from them, or is it the same because it's natural amongst all humans? Do I not brush my teeth because Kafirs use a toothbrush? Who invented Colgate? Do I say, no, we can't use Colgate? Kafirs came up with that. They say, no, well, Colgate is what? It's a paste that has fluoride in it that's made to whiten the teeth. All of us do that. All of us have been using bristles and strings and fibers with chemicals and solutions on them to whiten our teeth since we've been human. The Prophet encouraged it, miswak. It does the same thing. And so whether I use a toothbrush or miswak or toothpaste or whatever, it's not because I'm taking it from them. All of us do this. And then the fourth thing is, let's say all of that is true. I took it from them specifically. The iPhone. Who do we take that from? The iPhone. This thing right here. That is from Steve Jobs. I got that from Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs invented this. There was no iPhone, and then there was an iPhone. And I use the iPhone. The enemies of Islam, they'll try to make this argument to you. You all want to be Salafi, you all want to be Muslims, you're tired of the Western influence. Give up your cell phones. Right? Prove that y'all did it first. Of course we did it first. Steve Jobs was the first one to make the iPhone. Prove that we're doing it the same way. You don't push the buttons the way we push the buttons? Okay. Prove that it's something unique to y'all and not a human trait. No, you guys were fine in the desert running around with your swords. You didn't need phones, and right? And then we came and gave you that. So you got it from us. You got me. We got it from y'all. Before you all, we didn't have phones. We had communication, but we didn't have phones. Play. Who has phones now?
Everybody.
So is it y'all or everybody that has phones now?
Everybody.
So are we being like you? Are we being like Steve Jobs? Are we being like the kuffar in the West because we use a phone? Why not? We're being like everybody uses phones. And like that fourth quality, that fourth circumstance ends up becoming part of the third. It's just part of humanity now. You see what I'm saying? And it comes part of the first. Prove that they did it first. Yeah, you might have invented the phone, but where'd you get that technology from?
The cell phone.
You see what I'm saying? And you'll find that in there, who's the second in charge in is it Microsoft or Apple?
Microsoft would be second. Apple.
No, I'm saying who's the second in charge? And I hesitate to call him a Muslim, but
In charge of what?
in charge of Apple or Microsoft, I forget which one. He's a person who ascribes to Islam. Don't think just because Steve Jobs was the head of the company that there was no Muslim engineers in there.
Well, I don't know that name, but I was going to say Tim Cook.
No, that's why I say I can't remember. It's Microsoft. He's a Shi'i, though. They say he's Shi'i.
Indian.
Yeah, like a Shi'i, Iranian or Indian or something like that. But even without going to that level, how many programmers and engineers are from the subcontinent? So just because the Kafir's name is on it, who had a hand in making that? Who had a hand in developing that?
Somebody else.
You see what I'm saying? So can we say it's resembling Steve Jobs when he needed help? Who discovered the New World? Who discovered America? Come on.
It's been proven that
I know it's been, but my point is, let's just stick with the Columbus. Like
Mansa Musa's brother.
Mansa Musa's brother, right? Some of them say he was here before that. Some of them say before them there was Muslims here. The point is we'll stick with what they teach. Columbus. Who were the pilots on 2 of his ships? Muslims. The maps he used, whose maps were they? Muslims. So it's not even the debate of, well, Mansa Musa's brother, I forget what's his name, Ahmed Musa or something like that. Did he come here before and they found the spears and they found this and they found that? And maybe there was Araby, Georgia and things like that. All that be what it is. And that is a true history. Even just sticking with Columbus, how did Columbus get here?
Navigation of Muslims.
The Muslims. So is it resembling? Spanish people take it, huh?
Copying, yeah.
No, I mean, are we resembling them or are they resembling us?
Right. Yeah, we're explorers.
You see what I'm saying? Spanish people take a siesta. Where they get that from? From the Muslim, qaylula. Right? And so it's important to think about those things. So anyway, back to the point is that he's not mentioning the Persians and the Romans because they're the only ones. He's mentioning them specifically because they were in charge during that time. And so the same thing applies throughout history. If they are not an Islamic culture, the default is what?
Human.
The default is criticism.
Oh.
If the culture that you are adopting is not of an Islamic culture, the default of it is what? Criticism. How do we know this? How do we know this? We're going to see examples. This is what the whole book is about. The Prophet ﷺ, in the beginning of Islam, how did he comb his hair? He parted it down the middle and combed it to the sides because he wanted to be like who? Ahlul Kitab. That's how they combed their hair. Is that religion or culture? And he wanted to be like the culture that he was closer to religiously. Were we ever Christians and Jews? No. But he wanted his culture to be closer to a culture of people who he was closer to religiously. So you had Mushrikun and Ahlul Kitab. Who were we closer to? Ahlul Kitab. So he made his culture resemble their culture. And he would part his hair down the middle and comb it to the side. Like, after the Arabs accepted Islam, what did he do? He combed his hair to the back the way the Arabs do. Why? Okay, established to be different from Ahlul Kitab. But now he's being like the Arabs. Because that culture is whose culture is now? That's an Islamic culture now. Everything, and this is a point that he's going to bring up in this book, everything that the Arabs did that Islam did not change is from the culture of Ibrahim. Everything that the Arabs were upon that Islam did not get rid of, then that is the culture of Ibrahim. And so when we talk about resembling in cultures, we have a culture of a group of people who is the culture of the best friend of Allah, Khalilullah. Anything that is from a culture that does not have such a history, the foundation of it is what? Suspect. I need to challenge it. I need, my default position is criticism. When I see you wearing your clothes like that guy, my default position is what? Why you look like him? Then am I saying it's haram? Establish, prove that it's copying, etc., etc. But my default position is the language. My default position is why you talking like him? Learn Arabic. Right? Why you dressing like him? Dress like an Arab. Why you named like him? Name like an Arab. Because I want to be an Arab so much. You hate your culture so much that you want to be an Arab. No, because I love Ibrahim so much. Because I love the Prophet so much. Because I love the Sahaba so much, I know this culture is right. And every other culture is the culture of who? Ahlul Kitab, Persian, Rome, British. And it like the default is criticism to things you don't even notice. Holding the door for a woman. Whose culture is that? You get off the elevator and you say, no, you first, ladies first.
Ladies first. Yeah.
Whose culture is that?
Sounds like the Catholic culture.
Did the Muslims used to do that? Was that our culture?
I don't think so.
Ihtiram of a woman to walk in front of the men? Do they walk in front of the men in Afghanistan? Do they not respect do you respect your mother? Do you respect your sisters? Did your father respect his sisters and his daughters and his mothers? But did the woman walk in front or behind? So where is this concept that it's respect to let the woman go forward? Whose culture is that? You see what I'm saying? But because we're here and because of the dominance, what do lo tudhinu fayudhinu? They love that you compromise a little bit, they'll compromise a little bit. Does it mean curse out a woman and yell at her and scream at her? No, nobody's saying you got to treat women bad, but where's this concept you get to be in the front? What did the Prophet advise the women? Stick to the sides of the road. Stick to the sides of the road. Don't walk down the middle of the street. Stick to the sides. But because we've been in this culture so long, if I tell an American Muslim, especially a woman even, this is against our culture. Well, no, this is culture, this is American, this is fine, this is normal, right? Or even worse, you're trying to do something bad. You don't respect women, you don't love women. I love Aisha. You see what I'm saying? All I got is daughters besides this one. You think I don't respect them? But my culture is the culture of who? Examples of this, we don't recognize it, that we've started being like them. Right? Without even knowing it. Without even knowing. So the author, he says, as far as resembling the Persians and the Romans, فَقَدْ دَخَلَ فِي هَذِهِ الْأُمَّةِ, then it has entered amongst this ummah from their effects, statements, and actions. We're like the Romans in things that we say and things that we do, we don't even know it. We don't even know it. Phrases that we say. I'm not saying. I don't know. Where'd that come from? Where'd that come from? Somebody had to do that first. Salam alaikum. Where'd that come from? And I'm not saying it's haram. I am not saying you can't go salam alaikum. But what I'm saying is, where did it come from? My default is what? Criticism. Where you get that from? I do. As-salamu alaykum. But what did the Prophet say about giving salams to somebody far away with an inshallah? Where did it come from? Right?
What is it?
I don't know.
What did he say?
Oh, that you shouldn't give salams with inshallah to somebody far away. Right? Get up to him. Give him salam. Say salam alaikum.
You should say salam alaikum like this.
Yeah. Huh? I don't know. I don't know. I'm learning just like you. But the point is that there's a culture. We go around all day long. Assalamu alaikum, akhi, kayf halik, habibi. Where we get that from? Am I saying it's haram? Do not leave here saying, the Hakim said you can't wave. I don't know. But my default is criticism. Show me the Sahabi who did this. Right? And then I feel comfortable. Like this, so many things creep up on us that we don't know. It's from them. That's why we're delighted when we find the history of something like this. I love this expression. Who was the first person to do this? I don't know. But we do it all the time. The Sheikh just did it. The Sheikh just did it in the dollars. We need something like this. Right? Okay, who was the first person to do that? I don't know. But I know Imam Ahmed, when they asked him about different people in the chain, he said, so-and-so is okay, so-and-so is good, but as far as it comes to ahkam, then we need somebody like this. And I said, Allahu Akbar. Right, I got a salaf for thumbs up. Right? These type of things, it changes the way you view things. Like, I don't know where that came from. Huh? We good, inshallah. I need people like this.
What about like this?
That's better. That's twice as good, right?
Wish we had more hands.
All right? Because these things, they have an origin. And they entered into. So he says there have entered into the Muslims from the Roman, and anybody who lives in America and in the West, and generally they know this. There has entered into the Muslims from the Roman culture statements and actions, you can't deny them, right? Our toilets. Whose toilets are they? Right? It's not our way to poo and pee in water. We should be figuring out a way to make it better. Our legal system, a roundabout.
Toilet, I know a little history on toilet. I'm a plumber.
Who invented the toilet that we use?
Hopper.
Hopper?
It was just dry hopper. There was no water. There was no trap in it.
There was no trap,
There was no water sitting.
right?
Yeah. Just,
Mashallah.
It was a seat for.
Just a seat on a hole
Yeah.
that you would dig out later, I'm assuming.
No, it was a seat that wasn't. Well, I don't know if it was wood or not, but it was hooked to pipes.
Oh, they had a sewer system at that point in time? Okay. So it had to be water somewhere if there was a sewer system.
Yeah, it did.
It
was
gravity drop into
but-
a sewer
but it-
system.
But it didn't have a seal.
Oh, it had a flush but no seal. Just
Right.
it would flow down with it flush with to carry it back. Yeah.
So,
Okay. Right? And am I saying toilets are haram? No. But what I'm saying is it from something that's universal? Is it from something that everybody does now? Did they do it first? He might have been the first one who came up with that patent, but did he have any help? Did he look at the Muslims' plumbing? Who were the first people to come up with sewers?
Yeah, could have been Egyptians, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And so all of this, it makes you look at how everything you look at, like, man. And before I make a judgment, I'm looking at it like this. So statements and actions from the Persians. If you live here in the West, you know, from the Romans. If you live in the West, you know this is the case, right? Our buildings, our land, our roads, right? Where do we get these concepts from to do it this way? That this is the nice way to make a road, right? What side of the street we drive on? Whose idea is this? The school year. All of these things have an origin. If you live in the East from the Muslims, who are you influenced by? The Persians. You find that Persian culture, statements, actions. You can't deny it. It's there. There's an influence there, right? He says, that which there is no khifa. Nobody is unaware of it. No Muslim, it's not hidden from any knowledgeable Muslim, the fact that these influences exist amongst the Muslims if they are knowledgeable about the religion of Islam. Because if you know about Islam, you know what the Sahaba did. We're going to see examples in this book. They asked the Sahaba about wearing different sandals. He said, what's wrong with our sandals? These are the sandals that the Prophet wore and the Sahaba wore. Why would we take other sandals? Something as small as sandals. When they did jihad, right? And nobody is saying we cannot use the kuffar technology to improve, right? But he's going to talk about that. But when they asked him, why don't you guys switch your swords? You guys are using these Arab swords, right? Why don't you get a different sword? They said, these are the swords we beat everybody with. Why are we going to switch them? Right? Which one's a better sword? A broadsword that the Englishmen were swinging, or the swords that the Arabs were using? If I had to use a sword, I'm going to use their sword. Unless there's a circumstance where, you see what I'm saying? Like, there's that balance. And this is what we're talking about. Understanding that the default of any culture besides Islam is criticism. And then from there, we're looking to establish allowance or prohibition. I'm going to be critical. But after being critical, I'm going to look. Is it okay? And then I'll let it go. Or, no, no, you can't let it go. But from the Muslims, my default is acceptance. I've always seen the Muslims doing this. How we build our apartments, right? Just in every field of life. Which one's better, open concept or seclusion? When you want to lay out your house, which one is better? Open concept or having rooms? Why? We are Muslims. I want to invite my male friends over. Kafirs have open concepts so they can all hang out in the same area and feel spacious and move around and dance and have a fondue party. My wife ain't hanging out with y'all. So when y'all come over, I need to have a space for y'all where she can stay to the side. And that's why when you go to Muslim homes, you find that we all have what? A diwaniyah. Someplace where you can come and be comfortable as a guest and stay and live if you need to without ever bothering my family. Kafirs, when they have a guest room, where do they have their guest room?
Next to their bedroom.
And it's like, what sense does that make? Yes, or even worse, next to their children's bedroom. And then we wonder why somebody touched our children. And you, by default, would never think guest bedroom location is a religious matter. But when you think about it, it's like, nah, it does make sense. Why would I want the kafir to come all the way? I'm not the kafir. Why would I want the guest to come all the way through my home to share the same bathroom my children share, sleep next door to me and my wife or my children, and be so involved with us? Whose culture is better? Or let's say, build a separate room for them that they can be comfortable in. Because our religion teaches hosting the guests and giving them a place, right? The Catholics say, well, we want the bedroom inside. We don't want to make it too nice because you don't want the guests to do what? The guest bedroom, they never make it too nice. Why? It's part of our culture.
They don't want them to stay.
I don't want you to stay. You can't make it too nice, because if you make it too nice, they're going to want what? They're going to want to stay. Like, Islam, should we make our guest rooms nice or bad? Because our religion says what? Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir falyukrim dayfa. Give them the best you got. My guest room has a king-size plush pillow top Serta sleeper. Why? I don't, right? I'm saying, for example, I don't have that. But why would I have that in my guest room? To honor my guests. I might sleep on a regular old Sealy, right? Just a regular old mattress. But no, I got them the best. Culture, it's not just the things that we might think about on that grand scale. You got to reevaluate. And this is why Islam succeeded in Afghanistan and in Bosnia and in Africa, and why it has trouble succeeding amongst the Americans, specifically the African Americans.
It has trouble.
Yes. Because what do we not give up?
Culture.
We don't give up our culture. We don't change. We don't become what the Muslims were. You see what I'm saying? Yes, the best of us in Jahiliyyah is the best of us in Islam. And yes, the amount of time is different. But when I think about Afghanistan now, what do I think about Afghani culture, or do I think it's Islamic? Even though Fadl doesn't want to agree, there was a time when you thought about Bosnia, you thought about what kind of culture? Islamic. That's why your name is what? Fadl.
But they came by way of
I know, that's why I said there was a time.
colonization from Turkey.
Be it what it may, the culture became what? The Turks who colonized it, they were Turkish, but they also had what kind of culture? You see what I'm saying? Now, they had some of their stuff that they kept over with them from Turkey, and most of the time, those would be the things we would do what? We would criticize. Well, you guys were still doing this and still doing that. And some things we would allow it after we found, well, you guys dress like this, and the Sahaba didn't dress like that, but we understand that's just culture. And when we look at it, when we evaluate it, we see that's just dress. You see what I'm saying?
Do you have an example of how the Sahaba dressed?
Yes, we have tons of examples of how the Sahaba dressed.
I'm trying to reference it, and I couldn't get no visual.
But the thing to remember is that the Sahaba were at a lot of times in early on in Islam were poor. So their dress reflected their ability. Walking around in an izar with nothing else on, to where if I make sujood, my butt shows. It's how a decent amount of Sahaba dressed. Can I do that?
No.
Because they dressed like that out of what?
Necessity.
Necessity. Did the Prophet have good clothes? This is an example of what I was mentioning when you say we got it from the Chinese or the Asian. What was one of the Prophet's favorite garments?
It was given to him from
Burdatun Yamaniya. It was a Yemeni cloak. What's a cloak?
basically a thobe.
That big old thobe that had red and white stripes on it. Right? So who says we got it from them? Now, did everybody have the ability to wear that? No, that was one of the Prophet's favorite garments. As Islam spread and we got more control and more lands entered into Islam and we got into different locations, we all lived where? As Muslims early on, where do we all live?
Arabia.
In the desert. I'm not wearing no fur in the desert. You see what I'm saying? But as we conquered a place, or should we say opened a place, because we don't use the word conquer, we don't use the word colonize. Our word is fetch, because we didn't do those things. There's a reality to that. The kuffar, when they go somewhere, they do what? They conquer. They take over, but they don't build. That's why most of the time, once they leave, what happens? They go right back to what they were doing before. If they stay, they colonize, meaning they segregate and keep them while being dominant over those. Islam, when we go into a place, what do? We build it.
Teach, share, cultivate.
You see what I'm saying? So there's a difference between what we do when we get somewhere and what they do when they get somewhere. When they came to America, where them Indians at?
Almost annihilated.
When we went to Afghanistan, where those Afghanis at? When we went to North Africa, where them North Africans at? Where they at?
They're still there.
They still there. And what are they? Muslim. You see what I'm saying? That's the difference. We don't conquer, we don't colonize. The word in Arabic is al-fath. We open. قَدْ تَبَيَّنَ يُخْرِجُهُم مِّنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. We take them out of the darkness into the light.
Yeah, sorry. When you first said that, my mindset was American. When you said when we went the Indians, where are they at now?
No, you're right. That's what I meant when I said when Americans, when we came here, where them Indians at now? They gone. They got a couple of them huddled together on reservations, and they do little things, but did they build up the group of people? Did they take them out of the darkness into the light, or did they conquer any race? Or did they colonize by saying, this is all ours now, and y'all can go over here? And we'll manage you all from above.
No, they annihilated.
Yeah, one of the two. But when Muslims go to a place, what did the Prophet tell Hiraql? Accept Islam. We'll leave you in your position. We don't got the desire to come over and come to y'all land and kick y'all out, and we'll leave you there. Just accept Islam. And we'll work together to build your people just like our people. And if you don't want to accept Islam, pay the jizya. And we'll build you as an individual, not your people, because your religion, your culture won't be the dominant. But as an individual, you'll be allowed to thrive under us. There's a difference between conquer and having success in a place. I mean, that's literally what the word means. We have success where we go. And that's the point of what I'm making. We look at all of these places, Islam got there and took root. But how often now the opposite is occurring, that the Muslims are being influenced. And so going back to what the author said, this is obvious for anybody who has, because I forgot where the train of thought we were on. This is obvious for anybody who has knowledge of the religion of Islam, what has entered in the Muslims from these statements and actions of the Persians and the Romans. وَبِمَا حَدَثَ فِيهِ, and what was innovated in Islam because of them. How many celebrations were innovated because of these people? How many ways of life were innovated because of these people? Once Islam, that's what I was talking about, the garment. Once Islam started to spread and all of these other cultures come in, we're going to learn from them what is beneficial from their area. I'm not going to go into the tundra of Northern Europe in a nizar. We're not stupid. How do you all dress up here? Well, we found this to be suitable. All right, Muslims, this is what we're wearing up here. You see what I'm saying? Is that tashabbuh? Or is that learning what is suitable for the environment, which is what Islam encourages us to do? Because Islam says what? فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people who know if you don't. When I go to this new land, to this new location, okay, so tell me exactly what y'all doing. Well, we're wearing this fur. Well, what kind of fur is it? What animal did it come from? Nah, I don't really like lion skin. You know, a lot of scholars say that that's haram. It's najis. I'm not saying it's najis or not. I said some scholars say it's najis. You know, okay, but what else y'all got? Y'all got cows? Okay. How does this leather work? When you guys tan and make this, you guys do this treatment to it, what does it do? It makes it insulated? Okay. I want you're a good tailor. I want you to make us up some garments made out of this material. Yalla, bismillah. And now, whose clothing is that? That's the clothing of the Muslims, even though we got it from what the people that were there before us were upon. Until now, when you think of that, you only think of what? The Muslims. So it's important to understand like how these concepts work. We don't disregard it, but the default is critical. Maybe criticism isn't the right word. The default is critical analysis. What is this that y'all are doing? And then we make a determination of where to incorporate it in our culture, in our religion or not. He says, وَلَيْسَ الْغَرْضُ هُنَا تَفْصِيلُ الْأُمُورِ الَّتِي وَقَعَتْ فِي الْأُمَّةِ. Our intention right now, because he's done with giving examples. He didn't even give any examples of Persian and Christian or Roman influence in Islam. He didn't even give any examples. They're too obvious. He says, but our goal isn't to detail everything that the Muslims have done that are being like the Jews and the Christians. Our goal isn't to detail all of the affairs that have occurred amongst this ummah. From the things that tudari'u, that resemble. What word? You know that word tudari'? Tushabi. You know that word mudari'? Fi'l mudari'? Yeah. What's it come from? I love this. Dara'. It comes from the breast.
So dara means breast?
A dara' is a breast. Why do they call something that looks like something else a breast?
Because you got two same breasts.
Because the two breasts look alike.
Why mudari'?
Huh? Because a fi'l mudari' tudari'u ism. It's a fi'l that tudari'u al-ism. It matches the ism. A past tense verb has already happened. A command is going to happen when I'm done. But a fi'l mudari', when does it happen? All the time. It can happen right now at this moment, but often it's used to refer to continuousness. An ism refers to what? And so they call it a fi'l mudari'. It's a fi'l that matches a noun. Right? I say, la tadhhab ila suq. Don't go to the store. When does that happen? When? Huh? No. All the time. Right? If I say, uhibbus dajaj, I love chicken. When does that happen? All the time. Right? And that matches ana muhibbun lil dajaj. I am a lover of chicken. You see what I'm saying? So that's why they call it a fi'l mudari'. So he says, we're not going to talk about all the things that occurred amongst this ummah from the things that tudari', that match the path of the maghdub alayhim or the dhali. We can't go through all of that. وَإِن كَانَ بَعْدُ ذَلِكَ قَدْ يَقَعُ مَغْفُورًا. This is what we talked about. The default is critical, but is our response by default blame? The default approach that we have to these things is to be what of them? Critical. But is our default reaction to the person blame? If you do something, I'm critical of it. But is my default reaction blame? No. Our default reaction is not blame. If I see an American Muslim acting like an American, I am critical of the American. You see what I'm saying? But is my default of that Muslim to blame him, to rebuke him, to censor him, to chastise him? La. He says, this is because some of those things might happen by the one who did it and be forgiven. They'll be excused. Allah won't even hold them to account. You love that open concept ensuite. So, subhanAllah, an ensuite, right? Ensuite, right? How many of us love an ensuite? Ensuite is where you have your toilet, your shower, and all of that connected to your bedroom. You love ensuite, right?
Oh, okay, yeah. Master.
A master, right? This is what we call it a master, because this is what the master had as opposed to the slave had to go out in the bushes, right? The master, the ensuite, right? Where we get that from? Listen to the words, ensuite. What language is that? French. We still use the same words that they use, ensuite, right? It's on site. It's the bathroom and the toilet on site. What would the Prophet do when he would go number 2? He would go far away. Where do we go when we go number 2? Right next door. Right? Whose culture is that? But we got doors, we got vents, and we have soundproofing. Alhamdulillah. The reason the Prophet would go far away, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was to accomplish those goals. To reduce the smell that could bother, the sound that could annoy, and to keep privacy. So the fact that we have doors, and we have vents, and we have insulation in walls that doesn't allow the sounds to get out, we say, alhamdulillah, I think you're doing the same thing. But let's say there was criticism about it. Everybody loves an ensuite. Is Allah going to punish me because I have an ensuite? And I didn't know that it came from the kuffar. Right? I didn't know that our culture was to go far away. Right? Maybe this mistake that I fell into, maybe my toilet was built facing the Kaaba, and I didn't know. This mistake that I fell into, is it criticizable? Absolutely. But am I criticized by default? No. We look at the individual. Did he know? Was it something that he did intentionally? Did he have malice in his intent? Does he change it when he's corrected? Then no problem, Akhi, you just made a mistake. Everybody does it. The Sahaba, when they got to Sham and they found the toilets facing the Qibla, what did they do? They turned a little bit and astaghfirullah. That's all we could do. We can't take the toilet up and move it, right? All we could do was nanharaf qalila wa nastaghfirullah. We tried to sit on the toilet a little bit different, and we ask Allah to forgive us. So just because the foundation of their actions are criticizable, it doesn't necessarily mean the one who does it deserves our criticism by default. He can get to a point where he deserves our criticism, but it doesn't mean that we should by default be criticizing them. We should be instead educating. And that requires us to know beforehand what we're talking about. I can't go and tell somebody, Akhi, why are you using the pen like that? Astaghfirullah, Akhi, stop it. That's haram. It's kuffar use big pens. What are you doing? Why don't you have a Muhammad pen? This new brand, right? No. The default is, I'm going to look. Is there something wrong with that? Did the Sahaba use pens? Okay. Is this pen good in its concept? Does it defeat waste? Does it get rid of, some of the bad effects of pens like ink stains on my hands and on my clothing? Okay, alhamdulillah, I think you're doing the same thing that they did. But if it was something wrong with it, like if it had gold on it, or if it was some way extravagant, or some other criticizable affair that was taken from the way kuffar use their things, I might criticize you about it. I might say, Akhi, you know, and this is disagreeable, obviously. You know, you shouldn't have a pen with gold on it, Akhi. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, whoever eats, whoever drinks from a container made of gold or eats from one therein, then he only circles around in his belly the fire of the hell. And so a lot of scholars, they prefer that you wouldn't have a pen made out of gold. Right? But does that mean that I am blaming him about that? You stupid idiot. You want to be like the kafir? No, it's just... He says, why is that? Why is there an excuse? Why are they not criticized up front? Either because they have an opinion that they were wrong about, let alone if their opinion was right. We're talking about, what if they had an opinion that they were wrong about? They made a mistake. Somebody says, women first because it's safer. The reason we say ladies first is because when I'm behind them, I can watch them and keep an eye on them all. And in America right now, I am more worried about what's coming up from behind me than what's coming up in front. I fear that somebody might snatch one of my children or snatch my wife or do something to my wife while she's behind me. So I like to have my wife walk in front. But the Kafirs have ladies first. Yes, I know that was their culture. And I know that the Prophet ﷺ, during their time, the women would stick to the street, and it might have been from their culture that the women would walk behind. But that was in Medina, where there was a different authority and a different dominance. And right now in America, I don't feel that same safety. So I want my women to walk in front. Is he right or wrong? I don't know.
You want to take a position you don't know?
I don't take that position. I'm just saying.
You don't have a justification?
Listen what I'm saying. I'm giving an example. If somebody said all of that, is he right or wrong?
According to you, I have to say I don't know.
I don't know. He could be wrong. He made an opinion, and he could be wrong. Or he has his justification and his reasoning, but he could still be what? He could still be wrong, right? For example, somebody says, I drink alcohol because it removes cancer. He's wrong. You see what I'm saying? You don't have no because the religion prohibited that, and it's clear. But this individual who says, I want the women to walk in front instead of walk behind, even though ladies first is a kafir concept per se, until we have a proof that it's an Islamic concept, he has his justification. Is he right or wrong? I don't know. And for that reason, I don't blame him. You see what I'm saying? Even if I disagree with him, I don't censor him. I don't rebuke him. I say, yeah, that's fine, Akhi. For me, my woman is walking behind, right? الرِّجَالُ قَوَّامُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. I want to be the first person to meet any danger that comes. Wherever I've been, I've already been there. So they're safe behind me. But I want them following in my footsteps. So if somebody jumps out, I'm the first one. And I am going to be able to protect them from in front. Which one is more right?
They both justified, but
I don't know. And for that reason, I'm not criticizing him when he does something that resembles the kuffar. Because he has an opinion that has some justification, even if I think it's wrong. Straighten him out a little bit. Is he right? Yeah, I know you're so far back. Try to come up. Yeah, that way you can. Yeah, take a sutra. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, good. But turn a little bit to your left, like that. Perfect. So, you understand what I'm saying? The person can be doing something wrong. We can know the answer and say he's wrong, right? But I might not criticize him because he just made a mistake. He has a reasonable argument that he made a mistake in. Or he might have sins that forgive his mistake. He's wrong, but he does other things that Allah is going to forgive that from him. For example, deeds. He has other good deeds, hasanat, that Allah is going to expiate his bad deeds because of. There's a Muslim who sags. You know what sagging is, right? You know what sagging is? Sagging is what African Americans and others do, where they pull their pants below their butt cheeks, right? Good or bad?
Bad.
It's bad. There's no confusion about this. Who'd they get that from?
Is it in prison?
Prison, if not kuffar, right? You've never seen any Muslim sagging, except that he was resembling the kuffar, right? So you got this Muslim who sags. Is he wrong? Is that mistake that he does criticizable? Yes. Is he evil? Not necessarily. Because he might have good deeds that sin gets wiped off of him. That mistake, Allah doesn't even look at. Allah doesn't even hold him for it. Because every day when he wakes up, he serves his mother breakfast. He sags. Resembles the kuffar. He got the new pair of Jordans every time they come out, with all the different shoestrings and colors. Akhi, stop that. Akhi, you look like a kafir. Right? But every morning he wakes up, he serves his mother breakfast and takes care of her. Right? Is his action good there? I'm talking about the resembling. No, his action is terrible. Akhi, what are you doing? It's haram. Can I criticize the action? Can I educate? Can I be critical of the action and tell other people you shouldn't be like him in this? But do I tell that person that you're evil, you're wicked, you're horrible, look at you, being like the kuffar? Because he has other good deeds that Allah might forgive. And this is a balance that Ibn Taymiyyah is going to talk in this book that a lot of people have a hard time dealing with. Celebrating the Prophet's birthday, good or bad? Bad. Extreme innovation. From the worst things, taken from the enemies of Islam, the Fatimiyun, Al-Ubaydiyun, Al-Khubatha. They're the ones who invented this 400, 500 years after the Prophet ﷺ. It's a terrible action. Any of their good deeds regarding that action are what? Rejected. Because they're what? Bid'ah. If they send salat on the Prophet ﷺ on Mawlid, because it's Mawlid, their salat on the Prophet is what? It's rejected. If they give charity on Mawlid, because it's Mawlid, their charity is what? Rejected. Type. Understand? They did those things because it's what? Because it's Mawlid. Understand? They gave charity because it's Mawlid. Right? Why did they celebrate the Mawlid? No, why did the Muslims you know who celebrated the Mawlid, why do they celebrate the Mawlid? Huh? Because they love the Prophet. They'll be rewarded for loving the Prophet. You understand the difference? And that is something that a lot of people have a hard time understanding. Everything they did because of the Mawlid is what? It's rejected. It's no good. Because why did they do it?
Does the good deed offset the bad deed?
Well, listen to what we're saying. Because the Mawlid, they did 100 good deeds. Because it's the Mawlid, they did 100 good deeds. Every single 100 good deed is what? Rejected. Why? Because of why they did it. It's bid'ah. وَمَنْ أَحْدَثَ فِي أَمْرِنَا هَذَا مَا لَيْسَ مِنْهُ فَهُوَ رَدٌّ. Whoever innovates, or whoever does an action that is not from our actions, then it's rejected. So everything they did because it's the Mawlid is what? Rejected. Type. Why did they do the Mawlid? Because they loved the Prophet. Their foundation of loving the Prophet, do they get rewarded for that? Yes. Right? They didn't love the Prophet because it's the Mawlid. They did the Mawlid because they loved the Prophet. They'll get rewarded for that. Everything they did because it's the Mawlid is rejected. And so does it offset? How much do they love the Prophet? You see what I'm saying? How much is their love of the Prophet ﷺ that Allah might forgive them of this action because of the greatness of that action? The individual who drank alcohol and the Sahaba cursed him, what did the Prophet say? Don't do it. لا تسبوا فإنه يحب الله ورسوله. Because he loves Allah and his man. Don't curse him. He got drunk. They beat him. He got drunk again. They beat him. He got drunk again. They beat him. He got drunk again. They beat him. Until finally one of the Sahaba said, La'nak Allah. How many times are they going to have to beat you over this? The Prophet said, La tusabbu. Don't curse him. Because verily he loves Allah and his messenger. That love that he had out of Allah and his messenger was enough to stop them from being able to talk bad about him as a person. Did it stop them from beating him? Did it stop them from establishing the rules of Allah against him? Did it stop them from criticizing the action he was doing? And so like this we talk about, somebody makes a mistake. It does not by default require us to be bad to them, to talk bad about them. Do we fight the mistake? Do we criticize the mistake? Do we point out the mistake? Do we reprimand the mistake? Do we educate? Do we establish the laws? Yes, all of that. But the person who did it, is he by default, because he made this action, a mubtadi'? Is he by default, because he did this action, a kafir? Is he by default, because he did this action, a fasiq? Is he by default, because he did this action, somebody who is resembling the Jews and the Christians? We say no, we have to go further before we establish that name against him. And that's what Ibn Taymiyyah is talking about right here, saying that all of these things that some of the Muslims have fallen into, from what resembles the Jews and the Christians and the Persians, it's obvious. But in spite of that, some of those actions, not all of them, is everybody a good guy who does bid'ah? No, there are some bad guys, right? But some of them who do these actions, they're excused. You see a scholar who says a statement that is bid'ah, but his whole life he's told people Quran, Sunnah, way of the Salaf, but he said a statement that is bid'ah because he thought that that bid'ah was correct. Do you kick him off of Salafiyah because of that? Say la. You see a person who does haram. He loves Allah and his message. He wants to be a good Muslim, but he has this deficiency. Walaikum salam. Do you kick him out of Islam for that? And so like this is what the author is trying to say. The last sentence he says, وَإِنَّمَا الْغَرْضُ أَن نُبَيِّنَ ضُرُورَةَ الْعَبْدِ وَفَاقَتِهِ إِلَى هِدَايَةِ إلى هداية الصراط المستقيم وأن ينتفح باب إلى معرفة الانحراف وأن ينفتح باب إلى معرفة الانحراف. The goal of us mentioning all of this, because somebody's going to read those statements that we said, the Muslims are doing this, the Muslims are doing that, the Muslims are doing this, and they're going to think what? How evil are the Muslims now? You've seen people who talk like this. They look at the Muslims and they look at Islam بِنَظْرَةٍ سَلْبِيَّةٍ, with a negative view. Oh, the Muslims are evil now. The Muslims ain't like the Sahaba. They're so evil now. Everybody's a bad guy. Kafir, mubtadi, fasik. This is how they look at the Muslims. Was the goal of the author to make you look at the Muslims like that? No, our goal was to clarify how much the slave Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. You had a question? Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Huh? بعد هذه الجملة إن شاء الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول 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 الله لا حول. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. I love this book. The author, he says, instead, like, if you think that we mention all of these things that people are doing that are criticizable, to think that our only goal is just to criticize everybody, no. Because sometimes they can do it and it'd be a mistake. Sometimes they can do it and they'd be forgiven because they have other good deeds. So why do we mention all of that? Why do we mention all of these things that the Muslims unfortunately have fallen into? Just so you can look bad at the Muslims and be upset with the Muslims? No. Our goal was nothing more than to clarify how much the servant is in need and his extreme poverty towards the guidance of Allah. All of that was to make you realize that if it wasn't for Allah guiding you, you'd have been right there too. If it wasn't for the fact that Allah directed you, that would have been you. And it can be you. It might even be you in certain things. And so you need to turn back to Allah for guidance to that Siraat-il-Mustaqeem. That's the point of this book. You need to turn back to Allah, remove your desires, strip away the arrogance, strip away the things that are stopping you from completely going back to what they were upon. Udkhulu fis-silmi kafa. Enter into Islam in totality. There's something that's stopping you from practicing Islam perfect, get rid of it. That's the point of understanding all this. So you can know how much you need Allah, and that the doorway of being aware of innovation or deviation could be made open for you. So you can know, okay, now I can see this. I didn't even look at it like that before. Man, this whole time I was doing this, and I never even thought for one moment that that could have been wrong. But now by mentioning these things, it changes the way you look at it. And that's the goal behind mentioning all of that. We'll stop at that amount, even though what's after it is so much benefit. We'll stop at that amount. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. فضل يا أخي. La. That's what I'm saying. This is where they misunderstand it. You'll find them. They'll say, because he talks about it here, that the person who celebrates the Mawlid might get rewarded for their love of the Prophet. Love of the Prophet is an independent act of worship. Do you love the Prophet right now? Alhamdulillah. Nasallahu yuthibaka. We ask Allah to guarantee you your reward. That love of the Prophet makes you do what? That love you have for the Prophet, what does it make you do? It makes you follow him. Somebody, because of their love of the Prophet, might go too far. The person who goes too far because of their love of the Prophet, is that exaggeration that they did rewarded or not? It's rejected. But the love that they had, shall they still get rewarded for that, as long as they don't do something in that exaggeration that nullifies their love. So for example, a person who says out of their love of the Prophet that he was the best person. I love the Prophet, I say he's the best. What is that? That's love, and I get rewarded because he is the best person. Somebody who says out of their love of the Prophet that he never made a mistake in religion or in worldly affairs. They love the Prophet so much that they can't believe the Prophet ever made any mistake at all. Is that right or wrong?
Right.
No, the Prophet made mistakes. Did he make mistakes about religion? No. But did he make mistakes about his worldly life? Yeah. He made mistakes. He was a human. إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ. Right? أُخْطِي وَأَنْسَى. Right? As far as it comes to conveying the message of Allah, no, he didn't make mistakes. But he's a human. So their love of the Prophet made them go too far. But them saying the Prophet never made any mistakes at all, does that make their love invalid? No, their love is still okay. Like somebody who loves the Prophet, they love the Prophet so much that they say the Prophet deserves worship. You can make dua to him. Can you make dua to the Prophet? So that action is what? Rejected.
Make dua for him.
Does it invalidate their love of the Prophet?
No, it's too
No. Because when you make dua to the Prophet, you've now become a what? You're a kafir. And so that invalidates your love of the Prophet. So you see there's three levels. You love the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that love keeps you at the boundaries of showing your love for him. You don't go overboard. The way you show your love is correct. So your love is valid, and the way you show your love is valid, right? Then you got your love of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you go too far. And so you show it in ways that are incorrect. But those incorrect ways that you show it, they don't invalidate your love. So your love is valid, but the way that you showed it is invalid. But then sometimes you can go too far, and your love of the Prophet ﷺ can make you do something that is invalid and makes your love invalid.
So does the Mawlid make the love valid or invalid?
It depends on what they do. Do they make dua to the Prophet on the Mawlid?
Maybe they do.
If they make dua to the Prophet on the Mawlid, then that makes their love invalid. Because making dua to the Prophet is what? Huh? Shirk. If they say salat upon the Prophet 100 times on the Mawlid, is that shirk? It's not shirk. So they love the Prophet, right? But this action is what? It's bid'ah. The action, the way they showed the love is invalid. But their love, is it still valid?
Yes.
Yeah. A person who says it's Yawmul Ithnain, the Prophet fasted on Yawmul Ithnain, so I'm going to fast on Yawmul Ithnain. Do they love the Prophet?
Yes.
And they show their love by fasting the day that he fasted. Their showing of the love is what? Valid. And their love of the Prophet is valid. So you see, it could be the love is valid, showing the love is valid. The love is valid, the way they show the love is invalid. Or if they go too far, the way they show the love is invalid and the love is invalid. Right? It's nothing more than a claim, and they're actually lying when they say that they love him. Right? So when we look at the people who celebrate the Mawlid, from them are those who their love is valid, but the way that they show it is invalid. And from them are those that the way they show it is invalid and their love is invalid.
The way it makes the love invalid.
Yeah, the way that they showed it made the love invalid. If they slaughtered to the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, their love is what? Invalid. Shirk. If they make dua to the Prophet, shirk. If they do actions of disbelief and call upon the shayateen and things like this is what? It invalidates their love. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "La tutruni kama atrat al-yahud an-nasara Isa ibn Maryam." Don't go overboard about me the way the Christians went overboard about Isa. I'm nothing more than a slave. So say Abdullahi wa Rasuluh. And so the people who try to claim that Ibn Taymiyyah said it's okay to celebrate the Mawlid, is it ever okay to celebrate the Mawlid? It's bid'ah. It's bid'ah. That action is invalid. Anything you do because of that action is invalid. But why did they celebrate the Mawlid? Because they loved the Prophet. Is loving the Prophet valid?
Yes.
So that love is still valid. But the way they showed it is invalid. And that's why that type of person, most of the time when they criticize you about not celebrating the Mawlid, what do they say?
You don't love it.
You don't love the Prophet?
Yeah.
Because they believe that that's how you show love. And so how do you effectively assist that person? You teach them what love actually is. And you teach them how to love the Prophet ﷺ. Who loved the Prophet more, you or Abu Bakr? Abu Bakr loved the Prophet?
Absolutely.
Do they love Abu Bakr? The people who celebrate the Mawlid, do they love Abu Bakr? Are their children's named Abu Bakr?
Yes.
Right. They love Abu Bakr.
Yes.
I say, you know what? Abu Bakr, we know he loved the Prophet, right? Sallallahu. He was with him in the cave, ثاني الاثنين إذ هما في الغار إذ قال لصاحبه لا تخف إن الله معنا خليفة رسول الله. أحسن الله عليكم. He loved the Prophet, right? He loved the Prophet so much he married him his daughter. Right? He loved the Prophet. He loved the Prophet so much he gave up all of his wealth, to the extent that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, there is not one of you that I can pay back except Abu Bakr. Right? He loved the Prophet, right? What did he do on the Prophet's birthday? What did he do? Come on, let's go together. Let's read Abu Bakr's biography. Let's read it. Bismillah. And let's see what he did. Because I know Abu Bakr loved the Prophet. Right? Maybe the Prophet didn't do it. Maybe the Prophet was busy. Maybe the Prophet was humble. He didn't want to celebrate his own birthday. You know, some people, they don't, I don't want no big thing. I don't want everybody making a fuss over me. But Abu Bakr, I know he loved the Prophet. Let me go look at him. Let's read his story from beginning to end. Did he celebrate it?
No.
You love Abu Bakr, right? And you know Abu Bakr loved the Prophet, right? You can't tell me Abu Bakr didn't love the Prophet. Did he celebrate it? But Abu Bakr died young. He was only 2 years after the Prophet. And it was jihad. Did Umar love the Prophet?
Yes.
Do you love Umar? Don't you got a cousin named Umar? That means y'all love Umar, right? Y'all love him so much y'all named y'all children after Umar. What did he do? Did he celebrate the Prophet's birthday? He was the Khalifa for 12 years. No, for 10 years, right? For 10 years, he was the Khalifa. He had time. The Prophet said, I've never seen anybody handle a big burden the way Umar did, as it related to him being in charge. He did everything we needed to do. Islam spread in the east and the west. He went to all of these people. I know Umar loved the Prophet. You know how I know? Because there's that hadith when the Prophet said, Umar said, Wallahi, O Messenger of Allah, you are more beloved to me than my parent and my children and all of humanity. And the Prophet said, no, Umar, not until I am more beloved to you than even your own self. And Umar said, okay, even than my own self. To which the Prophet said, Al-an, now you love me. So I know Umar loved the Prophet, right? So he had to celebrate the birthday, right? Let's look at his biography. Let's read it. Let's read Umar's biography. How he accepted Islam. How he persecuted the Muslims. How the Prophet made dua for him. How he entered into Islam. How Islam was empowered by him. How he said statements that agreed to the Quran, that Allah sent down Quran, proving Umar right. To how the Prophet died and the stance that Umar had when the Prophet died because of how much he loved him, that he said, if you say he's dead, I'm killing you, because he's not dead. Because he loved him so much that he forgot that the Prophet could die. And then after that, Abu Bakr puts him in charge. And he spends 10 years taking care of the Muslims, making sure that the Muslims do what? Love the Prophet. What year did he celebrate the Mawlid? He didn't? Umar didn't celebrate the Mawlid? But Umar loved Allah, right? He loved the Prophet, right? So instead of doing the Mawlid, why don't we try to do what Umar did? Let's try to do what Umar did. What did Umar do? He used to walk out. He used to pray Taraweeh. He used to pray at night. He used to make dua. He used to give charity. He married his daughter to the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? Can I marry my daughter to the Prophet? Can I marry my daughter to the Prophet? No, I can't marry my daughter to the Prophet. He's dead, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But I can marry my daughter to somebody like the Prophet. There's an example. Abu Muawiyah sent me a message the other day. You know Talha ibn Ubaidillah, one of the 10 people that was promised paradise, right? You know who he married? This is going to show you something. We'll stop at this, inshallah. We got 3 minutes. Where is it at? Where is it at? Where is it at? They want to celebrate the Prophet's birthday. Let's see. Let's see how much you all love the Prophet. Ibn Second, he said that Talha, he married 4 women. All of them were the Prophet's sisters-in-law. He married Kulthum, the daughter of Abu Bakr. Why did he marry her? I love the Prophet so much I want to marry women. I can't marry Aisha. What's the closest I can get to marrying Aisha? I can marry her sister. Khalas, I'm going to marry Kulthum. He married Hamna binti Jahsh. Hamna binti Jahsh was the sister of Zainab binti Jahsh. He married Al-Fari'ah, the daughter of Abi Sufyan, who was the sister of Habiba. And he married Ruqayya, the daughter of Abi Umayyah, who was the sister of Salama.
I never knew that.
He was the prophet. I can't be. He didn't have no daughters to give to the Prophet. Abu Bakr, you got that. You gave him Aisha, Umar. You gave him Hafsa, Ali. Look at you. You got to marry Fatima. Uthman, you got the other 2. I'm gonna beat that, right? I can't marry. You got they all gone. But I love this man so much. What I'm gonna do? You got a sister? I want to be related. I want to be close to you somehow. When they talk about the Prophet's family, I need to be in that conversation somehow. Like, you want to celebrate your love for the Prophet? Go find a righteous son-in-law. Go find a righteous daughter-in-law who lives like the Prophet to marry your family to. Wallahi, from the things that we as Muslims have that nobody else has. If you really love the Prophet, you can do what? If you really love the Prophet, what can you do? Huh? You can be just like him. If you really love the Prophet, you can be just, in fact, the way I know that you do or don't love the Prophet is how much are you like him? I can pray like him. Do you pray like him? Why not? Don't you love him? You're going to pray your way or his way? Do you fast like him? So when they try to hit us with that question, why are you not going to celebrate the Prophet's birthday? Don't you love him? Am I going to be mean and nasty and combative to where they stick their fingers in there and they walk away because everything No, I'm going to work it out with you. Let's go ahead and figure this out. All right? Did you know we can actually give sadaqah the same way the Prophet gave sadaqah? Imam Ahmed loved the Prophet so much that he got cupped hijama and paid how much? He paid a dinar, which is overpaid. That's too much money because the Prophet paid a dinar. Prophet, imagine you go get your hair cut and you get a barber $150 just because the Prophet gave a barber $150. Why are you paying the barber so much? It's a $10 haircut. The Prophet gave $150. I just want to do what he did. I love him. Anna said the Prophet used to follow the pumpkin around on the plate. And because of that, I love pumpkin. I didn't like pumpkin. But now you put a pumpkin on the plate, I'm like, ooh, pumpkin. Ooh, pumpkin. Why? because the Prophet liked pumpkin. I can be like the Prophet even in the way I sit down and use the toilet.
Yeah, Ibn Umar. Yes, yes,
Right?
yes.
So who loves the Prophet more? Love the way you show your love. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك.